Hey everybody, so part two to this video. Let's get it. Okay. Hey, so I hope this video it reaches out to some of y'all. If it does, let me know who is reaching out to, because mainly I want to get the attention of people who's been in my same position for years. And I was hoping to have this message come across the right peoples that's been in my position, because for years that I've been on social media, I've seen a lot of peoples talk about the same things over and over with their health problems and what they need to do, and they don't know what to do when it comes to making the right choices in life, making the right choices when it comes to their drinking habits or eating habits. And it really sparked everything in me. Like, it opened my eyes to a lot of things, because I know now I'm not the only person that's going through this. And it makes me feel good that there's people out here who I could come to and talk to that is on the same weight level as me, that's in the same boat as me. And we could compare notes and we could come up with a solution to our problems. And I'm hoping that it reaches out to the right peoples on YouTube, because I know there's somebody on YouTube who's going through similar health issues as me, if not worse. So let's talk about the fibroids. I saw a lot of videos on females that was my age and around 38, 39 years old, who was diagnosed as of 2020 and 2021 with fibroids, because they was going through a lot of problems back then, like pains, and their mood swings wasn't all that great, and they didn't know what was going on. So they thought it was a typical having a menstrual cycle and everything, and come to find out it was their fibroids, and they was going through a massive amount of pain. So one of the women that I just listened to as of an hour ago, because she's also from upstate New York, she had fibroids throughout her 20s, and now she's in her 40s, and she felt like a bus just hit her. And she didn't like the feeling. And then also with the way she was eating, she thought that was also the problem. So she changed her ways. And I love the fact that her whole attitude, it wasn't like, oh, I gave up or my life is over with. It was more like, okay, now we know what the problem is. Let's nail this in the bud and let's change everything. What's the solution to this? You know, what can we come up with? And I like people who think that way, because that lets me know that you're not ready to give up, that you're not weak, and there is hope for you. You feel in your heart that you have a chance. And one thing she taught me how to do is stop punishing myself and stop saying that I messed up, like I fell off. That was the worst thing you could possibly say to yourself when you make one or two little mistakes. You didn't fall off. You just had a moment. And this is what she kept saying. Don't ever say you fell off. Say you had a moment and get back on the horse and keep doing what you need to do. So it took me some time to really get it through my head that I need to stop punishing myself for the choices that I made, even if I fell weak for something. And it start to and start to get back on the horse and start going back to the routine that you first started doing. And you keep talking to the people that was helping you throughout your journey. Have a safety net, and always have somebody you could rely on to make you feel like you're just as good as anybody, or they could support you in how you feel and make you feel like you're not the only one in this world, that you could do this, you're strong enough, and you're an amazing person, so you know you're going to do great. You're strong enough to do this journey. You're not alone in this journey. You got people out here that's going through the same thing as you, that will have your back. If you open up yourself to people's, you will have a support system. And that's the one thing I always wanted to have, was that support system. And I started talking to some people on TikTok. So I let them know who I am, and I let them know what a small portion of my life was like as far as health problems go, because I noticed when I look at people's videos that I could notice that they got something wrong with them health-wise. And I noticed that a lot of people have a lot of mental issues because growing up, they was told that they was not good enough, that they wasn't beautiful, that they wasn't important enough. And then their issues became bad when it came to food, because in order to make yourself feel better, what you're going to go to? Food or alcohol, whatever your choice of feeling good method is. And I was the same way. Food became my nourishment. It became everything to me. It became my comforter. And I thought, okay, if I'm having a bad day, let me go get a pint of ice cream, or let me go make me a plate of food, cook something that I know is going to be good for my soul, but it's not good for my body, because you want that nourishment. You want that feel good. So this is when the bad relationship with food started. And like I said, piggybacking on what I said about the certain foods or ingredients I put in my food that causes me pain in my head, back, whatever the case is. So one thing I forgot that I left out was the bananas. Bananas was one of them. Well, it wasn't exactly oranges, but they trying to tell me it was oranges. Oranges don't cause you any pain, but don't have too much of the citrus, because it does cause you acid reflux. That's why they say moderation is key. So another thing I started to notice is that I thought me substituting eggs and stuff for fruit was going to be a good thing for me. Not when you're diabetic. I solely was mistaken, because I spent my 3 months eating fruit and coffee and teas, and, having other types of stuff to substitute the eggs, because let's face it, I got sick and tired of eggs. I don't like eggs for the simple fact that it does messes up my pans whenever I make it, but at the same time, eggs never set well with me as far as scramble goes. So my doctor was telling me try boiled. And then here's the thing. I am obsessed with potatoes. I don't know about y'all, but I'm obsessed with all types of potatoes, even down to sweet potatoes. I became obsessed after 2019. I was like, yo, when I went to the store to get me my my Spanish breakfast, they had put potatoes in there, and then they put the eggs in it and everything, and I became hooked. So I started cooking that same breakfast for myself to save me money. Then I ended up in the bathroom. So I was like, okay, I'm never going to do that again. And you try doing that for a couple of days. Don't even give yourself a month. Give yourself a couple of days, because it will hit you. So again, we had to go back to square one. What type of breakfast in the morning I could make a constant thing, like make it a constant thing, so I could keep a good routine. It won't messes up my body, my stomach. It won't, what's necessary, put on weight or shoot up my blood sugar. So she was telling me, think of this, think of a child. What would you give your child if you was to have a child? Because a typical breakfast would be like a small yogurt. If you eat waffles, I have waffles, or you have a BLT, that would be my normal typical thing. And I will always have coffee with everything. Like I drink coffee twice every day, morning and afternoon. And I was like, but I need to substitute that for tea. And that was a struggle for a good couple of months. So I started buying more teas. The more I was forcing myself to buy teas, the more I started getting used to it. And I was always drinking my peppermint tea and my lemon tea. And then I was exposed to the dandelion teas and the ginger lemon tea. I was doing all that. So I went from drinking it once a day to drinking it 2 or 3 times a day. And sometimes I would try to go above and beyond and drink it up to 4 to 5. So I was like, okay, next, what's next? My relationship with certain ingredients in the food because, like I said, I cook onions with everything, and this was always an issue for me. I don't know how to moderate that. So I, told the doctor about this because once again, I was back in the doctor's office because me putting a lot of citrus, a lot of acidity stuff in my food, and onions was one of them, caused me to have heartburns, chest pains, headaches. So once again, I had to go over what I went through, and I told the doctor everything that I cooked throughout the week and what made my headaches persist. And it was going on for hours. It wasn't just for minutes. My headaches would go on for hours. And she gave me my medications, but even though she medicated me, I still need to make a change in me because you can't just rely solely on medications. You had to stop eating the stuff that was causing you pain. So it took me a long time to get rid of onions, but eventually I got rid of onions. So now I don't cook onions in my food anymore. And when I go to the stores, I tell the person that's cooking the food, don't put onions in my food, and don't cook my food with the same utensils that you cook onions with. So I make sure they wash their cutting tools, and out of respect for me, that they cook without that onions residue. And you can ask that. There's no such thing as you not asking that in the store. If they refuse to do it, then never to go to that store ever again. But I kind of got used to not having certain things like onions anymore, and I substitute that for pepper and garlic. And I made that an issue. So now 40% of my food has garlic in it and peppers. So I'm starting to practice more because, you have to practice to be perfect. Not everybody's perfect. Don't hold it against me if you see me make 1 or 2 mistakes or whatever. It's all about practice. The more I practice, the more I get a hang of it. And before you know it, I will perfect my skills and everything will be fine. And you could pretty much call me an expert in this. And it doesn't happen overnight because let's just face it, when y'all first started seeing these videos, that's when I started making a change in my diet. And this was the beginning of this year, as of February, March, because like I said, I didn't notice what I was doing with myself until certain foods brought it to my attention, and then my doctor brought it to my attention even more. So fast forward to today, meaning this month. September was a hard month for me. It was very complicated. I ain't gonna lie. I had my ups and downs, but most of all, my downs, because just when I started to do good, something just distracted me and made me fell back into that rabbit hole. So since this video is too long at 13 minutes, I'm gonna make it part 3.